acknowledged and flat out. Means that Virtus.pro bit in the backside by it in the last series against Rad, which they lost pretty heavily. Not quite going to be banning it out first, but you'd imagine it'd be on the list.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be seeing either a ban or immediate just locking in terms of those compositions coming on through. EMEA is going to be locked for the sign of Yoinkanda, so Virtus.pro are not going to be able to ban that one out. What they can ban out is the Luna, which is likely going to go first, so that Yoinkanda don't get their hands on a super bolstered up Psylocke. Now we get to see what Virtus.pro are going to decide to save. This might be where we see the Magneto. Well, yeah, it is going to be where we see the Magneto. They might feel comfortable leaving the Cloak and Dagger up for grabs now that they have that Magneto confirmed, so that they can use the Meteor and the one-shot potential to try and shut down the Cloak and Dagger mid-Eternal Bond dash.
One thing that we have been hearing through the grapevine is that Virtus.pro, like we mentioned, it was the first time that they lost a series last week, but they have been dropping maps in various tournaments, and they have been dropping scrims. But this is a team that tries to sort of bite back if they go through a bad period. They tend to sort of really come together and improve. The lock of the Cloak and Dagger seems to be the improvement that you would expect them to be making. Are there any other characters that would even be considered at this rate? Or do you think Virtus.pro are like, yeah, we want to make sure that we get that at least?
Yeah, I feel like you want, if you're Virtus.pro, to take the Cloak and Dagger. Immediately, Yoinkanda is going to ban out the Invis. They'd probably have preferred banning out the Cloak and Dagger, although then again, if Invis is on the table, Fire's Torch is going to get absolutely bolstered on up with the Guardian Shield and also the team-up ability giving him additional armor. But with VP protecting the Cloak and Dagger, it means that if Yoinkanda go for a save of the Cloak and Dagger themselves, we're going to be seeing that both of these teams have that same win condition. They're going to be both being able to have that Terror Cape up and running, but no, Yoinkanda are actually going to protect the Wolverine, which means that Virtus.pro here take the Cloak and Dagger instantly out. There's the adaptation that I was expecting. They saw it against Rad. They want nothing to do with it.
So I guess the question really is like, Yoinkanda leaning into this meta? You would have almost assumed that, like, okay, the team that just played them beat them, and they did it by going for basically the same draft twice. Let's just copy that draft. Let's see if we can like find the answers. But it does feel like, even from the picks alone, that Virtus.pro have like really done some soul searching to work out exactly where they went wrong. Yoinkanda, not to say that they don't understand what or even looked into it too much, they're just not really that fussed about the Cloak and Dagger.
Well, the Wolverine can, just in the same vein as you use Feral Grab to just get everybody out of the Invis boundary, or Blast Stand too. You can do that with Eternal Bond. It's an AoE that you have to be able to stand in. It's not based around the Cloak and Dagger's location. It's set on that ground. If you move them out of it, they're not getting that healing per second. So that can act as a counter agent there. The Wolverine's also going to be able to put pressure on potential duelist picks like the group coming on through if we do see Nevix try and go for that one, which might allow Black Sao to come in through with the lead on the Vanguard. 1 versus 1, but we'll have to wait and see, as Virtus.pro with that Cloak and Dagger are definitely going to be doing a lot of significant damage outbursts. Their burst cycles are going to be immensely stronger than Yoinkanda's if Yoinkanda aren't comfortable, as Vertigo on that Jeff is going to just speed everybody out of the spawn before swapping on over to the Mantis. Virtus.pro in the meantime utilizing Finzi's Doctor Strange portal, not just to set up an insta into the fight, but also scatter the comp they're against.
Fi's already found the pick onto Snaze. Triple support lineup for Sparkers. Just the crazy amount of damage Soulbound used pretty early in the fight, as Yoinkanda really not looking to make this fight any longer themselves. It's an awkward disengage, just picking apart Captain America, Psylocke just trying to get out of dodge, but Etsu unfortunately taken out. Virtus.pro have had a very easy time of this, and just as we were talking like it's the beginning of the end for this team as they lost their first series, feels that they bounced back, and we're seeing some Black Widow, which is not afraid to pull out.
I don't know if Yoinkanda misread the composition they were up against, because this screams to me that they were thinking they were going to be up against Torch. Taking a Black Widow with a Mantis means that you have the one-shot potential, but not if you have to be able to break for double shield of Doctor Strange and Magneto at the same time. Monk Mother's shots are buying a little bit of space. Virtus.pro have to make sure that they don't ego peek into them, but everyone just anchors up on point, utilizes the natural cover of the scenery to avoid the Widow, and off of the back of that, where's Yoinkanda's in? Maybe it's the cap, maybe it's the Psylocke, but they're so separated at the moment that they're not finding any engagement in.
At least Blacks has found the opening there, just as I say it. That 5v6 turns into a 4v3. Clearing out things very easily for Yoinkanda, who haven't really had a look in at the objective full stop. Ultimates have been pretty slow to charge for Virtus.pro, I'd say, for the most part, because there hasn't really been much damage to do.
Well, Dridro was getting all of the healing, immediately has Eternal Bond, and then Sparker too. You don't really prioritize the Atom here for the Karmic Revival. You prioritize the poke pressure to be able to keep Monk Mother off of these angles, and also dispatch damage towards either Etsu or Blacks if they try and jump in. If the dive is committed, Virtus.pro have so many tools of dealing with it. Soul Bond from the Atom, Sleep from Saipei, just even a heal boost coming on through from Dridro. Etsu is finally able to take down the Atom, but Spark is going to be able to self-revive, and coming on through the Blaster Barrage is going to be able to just collapse onto Yoinkanda stacked up players. Sedation comes on out. Snays with the Psionic Seduction, just trying to fight any space that they can for Yoinkanda to get onto this point, but it is for naught as Sparker back in the mix without revisiting Spawn Room is just absolutely dispatching player after player.
Very straightforward fight for Virtus.pro so far. Yoinkanda, no progression on the objective on the Eldritch Monument. Moving over to the airfield. We were definitely having a conversation of like, okay, yeah, Virtus.pro, you know what I'm going to say. We all know what happened. I've gone over it enough. Like, is it looking that bad that they could completely drop out at this stage in the tournament? Yoinkanda's a good team, but a Virtus.pro in that bad of a stage? Right now, it looks like it's only just a flesh wound, and they've bounced back. Only 2 eliminations gone on to Saipei and Sparker. Means that the Karmic Revival really can be just sat on for as long as possible because it really hasn't been needed. Now they have it, though, going into this first fight. Yeah.
So many players from Virtus.pro have not revisited the Spawn Room, and even the players that did go down, a lot of them had self-revives. So, yeah, rumors of their losses might have been greatly exaggerated.
Yeah.
Virtus.pro, they have had motivation now to try and actually really improve and lean into this new meta that's been established. Strange Teleport comes on out. Virtus.pro claiming his takes on that high ground. Damage boost going on to Fire as well. Yoinkanda, they don't have that Magneto. They don't have Meteor Ram. Neither do they have Psionic Seduction to be able to shut down Galactic Legend. It's all going to be off of heals coming in through from Freezing Charge, but that's not going to be enough. Monk Mother on that torch is outside of the Captain America's AoE, and Virtus.pro have already found the first pick.
Really good spot from Fi to sort of see that whilst the Freedom Charge was coming in, the Monk Mother was a little bit isolated on his own, churned down in the fight. And whilst it was looking like Yoinkanda might be able to jump on there first, they're even dedicating ultimates to this still, so hold that thought. Yoinkanda might be able to keep a hold of this one. There's no point in progression being made as of yet. It's still just fighting for this spot. Down to the butterfly from Etsu on very low HP. Mostly maybe used to just keep himself alive in this state. The Eye of Agamotto comes in, connects onto Free. The elimination follows from Nevix. This Vanguard duo has been played together so long, they might as well read each other's minds. They do exactly that. Virtus.pro take the point first.
Yeah, Yoinkanda invested the Cosmic Yawn Amplifier too, but the only one saying goodbye are the Yoinkanda players. Back they have to run. Sparker has still got the Karmic Revival, has had no cause of investing it. Virtus.pro can take this next fight, force Yoinkanda into using an ultimate just to bypass these chokes, and then come back with all of their players fully intact. They do have to be careful though, as Blacks and Etsu can both close up the distance of where that Karmic Revival is cast. Fi on that Star-Lord is scouting out too, trying to figure out where is this Psylocke? Is my backline going to be safe? There's the Captain America spotted on out. Out comes the Soul Bond, out comes the Sleep from Saipei, and Yoinkanda just don't have the confidence. Virtus.pro are the ones to start the fight instead.
And this Eternal Bond is almost pure ego and hubris coming out of Dridro. He has the freedom to do it. There's not going to be one on the other side. And for Virtus.pro, they're looking comfortable. They're looking back into the form that we expect them to be in. And for now, yes, Sparker can sit on this Karmic Revival all he wants. Nevix, the Meteor M, has just sat nicely. And Fi moving over to the Star-Lord, something that we've seen him on before, but maybe not as a high priority. As the point starts to switch around on the map, Yoinkanda having a couple of things to work with, I guess, namely The Psionic Seduction.
Yeah, Psionic Seduction is going to be there. Saipe should be able to get the Soul Resurgence online as Yoinkanda go on through aggressively, but the peel is just immense. Bulwark, Meteor M, everything layered on top, even with the Galactic Legend, and still Yoinkanda have not been able to find the picks. It's Sparker instead who takes down the EMEA even through the Invis boundary. Out comes Agamotto. Finzy's been able to collapse onto so many of their players, stacks them up for fight and knock them down for the blast barrage, and they're going to counter TP Yoinkanda's recontest touch. As if Snaze goes for the portal, he's gonna get taken by Finzy.
Well, that might take some of the focus away, but they're going to be able to dive in and take this fight. Covet Yan Amplifier put onto the objective, which means if I can pretty much take it straight back out. Finzy finds the burst onto Etsu. The comfort is there, and the elimination still all in blue. Virtus Pro looking very clean so far. The portal just diminishing. The fight's holding on for dear life as the Eternal Bond from Dreamdro is just going to keep everybody up, pushing everybody from Yoinkanda back. And a complete hold, 2-0 over on this first map for Virtus Pro, and zero progression made at all from Yoinkanda.
And it didn't matter for Virtus Pro that they were missing strategist ultimates that could provide sustainability, because they never had to use them.
Yep.
Soul Resurgence never matched wits with Supernova. Dance of the Butterflies was always coming out into an Adam who had Soul Bond, and it is no surprise to me that Dridro takes MVP, Cloak and Dagger. The secret is out, and Virtus Pro are making full advantage of it. 13-0-19. Read Dridro's statistics. 19,080 healing done. It doesn't matter that Sparker doesn't really provide all that much sustain. It doesn't matter that your Mantis from Saipe is tied to sustainability for her resource when Cloak and Dagger has that much healing potential.
Oh, for sure. Like this sort of Guardians of the Galaxy comp working out really nicely. Everybody looking comfortable. But I think that whilst, yeah, I wouldn't say that Sparker's ultimates were that good, mainly because he didn't use them. We can't have an opinion on him either way. But he had the most like final hits. Which with that right click, we talk sort of about, you know, you're talking to me about like the breakpoints being able to eliminate somebody for all of the healing that they're getting. That right click from Adam Warlock can hurt a lot. And I think we did see that pretty much proved with the damage that was done in the end. Despite the fact that the heal, like you said, wasn't needed. The team up was always useful. It was just like the damage output and the eliminations he was able to get.
And the Soul Bond too. The Soul Bond being utilized as a pseudo ultimate, essentially, whenever Dance of the Butterflies came out from the Psylocke. And it was very hard as well for Yoinkanda to be able to find the spaces to utilize Dance of the Butterflies whenever they wanted, because Fire on that Starlord was doing such a stellar job of just scouting, of checking. That being said, we'll have to see whether or not map number 2 is going to be just as dominantly sided to Virtus Pro, or if Yoinkanda can pull it back. We'll be back after this break.
We were all a little bit worried, unless you're Yoinkanda, that lightning might strike twice against Virtus Pro. But right now, it's the weather like is in the UK. Very warm, clear skies, and Yoinkanda sort of melting under the pressure a little bit. We've seen the adjustments needed and required for Virtus Pro after they've gone 24 wins in the official like Ignite Marvel Rivals tournaments. And after that loss, bounced back really nicely. Incredibly dominant display there, Moxie.
Yeah, and I like as well the fact that we're seeing huge changes coming on through to Virtus Pro's compositions, because that was one of the worries, right? Is Virtus Pro one of the teams that everyone thought in Season 0, Season 1, everyone said if there's ever going to be regions meeting each other, Virtus Pro are probably going to be coming out on top. And then the first tournament where regions are potentially going to be up, we know regions are going to be meeting each other, but potentially Virtus Pro doesn't even get to meet other regions because they're in the lower bracket. But no, they come back after a loss against Rad, they bounce back in with a new composition, which shows that they've been investing, learning how strong the meta has turned into the Cloak and Dagger favor, as Loki is going to be taken off of the board for Yoinkanda. Yoinkanda. Yoinkanda will be able to secure themselves EMEA as well. Virtus Pro mirroring that as Magneto has already been removed for both sides. Ryan, do you think we're going to see Cloak and Dagger make another appearance in the ban system now, though?
Potentially. I saw a couple of people like looking through, the watch parties and stuff, see what people were like thinking of that one. And there was a couple of people who was like, oh yeah, you need to take out the Adam Warlock. But we actually we had a discussion about this yesterday, Moxie, where it's like, it's too specific. You have to think about the characters you're taking out and how they either connect via team-ups or just synergize really nicely with other strong characters. So yeah, it probably is a smart idea to not allow the Cloak and Dagger here. But I guess like being able to save it here from Virtus Pro is good because you get to protect it, and if you don't get to protect it, it means that either Luna or Loki was left out, so you just grab them instead, right? It's a bit of a pick your poison thing for Yoinkanda.
Do Yoinkanda save the Cloak and Dagger? The last time they prioritized the Wolverine, and there's the Cloak and Dagger save. Okay, there we go. So yeah, for me, like that last round, Hell's Heaven was a little bit strange, pun fully intended, because the ban system, Yoinkanda were going into this anticipating a vastly different composition that Virtus Pro were running out. They prioritized the Wolverine. They thought that they would be up against Groot coming on through from the side of Virtus Pro, and maybe they wanted the Wolverine for things like the Strange. But either way, the Wolverine, we never really got to see it come into fruition because Virtus Pro were on a composition that just shut down anything that tried to find an isolated target and grab them into Yoinkanda. Be it the Psylocke, the Captain America, the Wolverine, it all fell to pieces between the poke that came out from the Atom, the sleep CC that comes out from the Mantis, the Soul Bond so that no damage really bursts through anyone at the initial stage of dive, which is where dive is at its strongest since you're going in with all of your cooldowns. So it's going to be Arako that we get to go to. We've seen this map very rarely as Yoinkanda decide to take us here. One of, in fact, the latest map pool that we're getting to see from Marvel Rivals, which Virtus Pro have been able to full push in the past, but they definitely struggled with on that last point.
Yeah, it was a weird map because the Fire Straight's doing the exact same thing here of just forcing Virtus Pro into the latest map, maybe to just see exactly how they want to be playing this out. But Virtus Pro had a really good way of playing where they're able to take fights and have the objective still moving or be on the defense and just maintain the control of this objective, and everybody has to be like cleared, everybody has to be eliminated full team wide in order for Yoinkanda to make any progression. On this first part though, there is a little bit of leeway given to the attackers because you have the high ground and that 90-degree angle to play around, but you can already see Virtus Pro being irritated and Sparky yet again finding the first pick.
Yeah, normally this first corner is really annoying for the defender side to be able to take because of the flank routes that are active, but Virtus Pro, Spark is still on this Adam Warlock, is winning the 1v1. He's controlling the lane behind Virtus Pro's first corner and stopping Etsu from finding any value on the Psylocke, and because the Psylocke is losing to the Adam Warlock, the Psylocke's not there to take out the torch, which is normally the Psylocke's job. Psylocke normally takes down the flyers. Fi has to be careful that we don't get blitzed down by a Terror Cape, but instead it's Virtus Pro who are coming through with the picks as Blacks hops through that teleporter to just fully reposition to the fight, maybe cut Virtus Pro's attention, forced resources into chasing down the Captain America for the rest of his team to get value, but Sparker now has been taken down to the bait of chasing the Cap.
I mean, it was the only elimination so far I think that Virtus Pro been able to take, but obviously the resurrection for Sparker means that he's going to be back into the fight fairly early on. Hasn't really been that many. You can count on one hand the eliminations at Yoinkanda, maybe even two now as Etsu's managed to double up, but it's again onto a Guardian. The team up means that these people are back into the fight for the most part. Eternal Bond is going to make things a little bit more precarious for Yoinkanda as they're trying to get past this corner, but Monk Butter moving over to the Human Torch gets onto the Supernova first. Psionic Seduction trying to find some of these moments yet again, but Virtus Pro are just so good on this map. We've seen so little of it, but they're so good at just being irritating. Even if they lose this fight, they're going to buy so much time, Moxie.
Yeah, Sparker said Soul Bond. Monk Mother has the Supernova at after Dridro's Eternal Bond had expired. They were a little bit late to trying to use it to save Saipe, but Soul Bond just means that everyone from VP is stacked survives the Torch ultimate. Nevix now gets to answer back with the Psionic Seduction. He does get Carbon Crushed by Snaze, but that just means that the Emma's position is static, and Sparker takes the Vanguard down. You would be correct if you mistook the strategist for a duelist with the amount of damage that Spark has been able to pump into the forces of Yoinkanda, as they have not been able to find a way of breaking this first corner at all. Blaziken's approaching that Eternal Bond, but Dridro's got one to mirror. Finzi with the Eye of Agamotto too can catch on to all of those players and still have the pick potential with the Maelstrom of Madness, as Finzi dives into the back line, sees Vertigo going lower and lower.
He sees what's that kill so bad.
Going for the pick, but overcommits and Monk Mother punishes.
He just wanted that pick so bad that he was willing to overextend a little bit, and that might have bit off more than Virtus Pro can chew. Black's able to get a couple of these eliminations together, but it's pretty much what Virtus Pro have been consistently strong at. Like, really haven't lost that many either Convoy or Convergence maps, full stop. And here, 3.5 minutes have been bought, and it's basically 2 corners that this objective has been able to go behind. Virtus Pro looking to contest this a little bit. Soul Resurgence from Saipe ready to go to add a little bit more damage onto this side, and with the Terror Cape, you know how this is going. The drop down with the Eye of Agamotto, able to actually catch onto Vertigo, who just manages to get their own Soul Resurgence out just in the nick of time. You've got all of the tornadoes and the supernova flying down from Mother, and the Dance of the Butterfly, but I'm not seeing any blue names in the kill feed going down. And even if they would, I was going to say the Camet Revival's on the horizon to be used, but Sparker goes down. He's not going to be back. He's not going to be able to be resurrected. So it's actually looking like Yoinkanda are going to be able to push this one over the line.
Yeah, Black's out coming on for with the hero of the moment, Freedom Charge, charging Yoinkanda's A point and letting them push into B now. But this time bank, it's miserable for this attacker's side. They've still got one of the worst points to be able to push, point C, where Virtus Pro are going to have access to the high ground, all of the cover to hide their torch around these corners so that fight just does not get picked. And Monk Mother, in the opposite side, he's got to contest with the torch, he's got to contest with Sparker on this Adam. Etsu on this side is looking for an in, but the protection from Virtus Pro is almost immediate. Saipe picks the Psylocke out. Dridro aggressively sends the Eternal Bond so that Virtus Pro can go for more, limit the space that Yoinkanda have open to them for this next push. And now Virtus Pro can establish themselves on these angles, make themselves so hard to be able to oust that Yoinkanda are going to have to overcommit, overextend into their space, which is going to feed them directly to the angles, the LOS of Sparker and Fi.
A lot of ultimates been sat on for Virtus Pro. Psionic Seduction is going to be the first used, and pulling the Human Torch that's right in the air, just a sitting duck to be cleared out in hand. Etsu caught by Nevix. The Carbon Crush is going to maintain control for this defensive side. And it was just Virtus Pro biding their time, waiting for Yoinkanda to be a bit more out in the open. And with all of the ultimates that they've been sat on, conserving, they only used the one.
True, but it was Eternal Bond from Virtus Pro. That being said, Tridor is about to have another Eternal Bond, having used it in the fight prior. Yoinkanda have an Eternal Bond of their own. Etsu had the Dance of the Butterflies, but no! The dance floor is shut down immediately by the torch. Fi picks Vertigo too before Soul Resurgence can come on through. They're all stuck in one small space. Monk Mother with the Supernova trying to find anything, but Fi's flames burn brighter, burn hotter. And unfortunately for Yoinkanda, they're not able to handle the heat. They're falling apart time and time again.
It's the same adjustment too. Like, I really like the macro, the foundations, the fundamentals that Virtus Pro are playing with. Like, yeah, you're on the high ground, it's hard to go with, but as soon as they realize that objective is moving, even with Virtus Pro completely split up in that fight because it's so chaotic, they all just culminate on the objective. They can play off of each other, maintain a little bit of healing, and just really shut down Etsu from going in for that dive. Like you mentioned, Moxie, that Dance of the Butterflies is available. Grouping up against it is going to be important. Supernova going to be used on Virtus Pro's side as overtime is going to be triggered. Soul Resurgence and the Dance of the Butterfly lapping over each other, but the elimination's not quite cutting in as Dreedro has found up yet another Eternal Bond. Psionic Seduction a little bit late to shut down some of these ultimates that Virtus.pro been thrown in, but it's looking a little bit like the last point in that Yoinkanda leaving it to right to the end, able to have enough sustenance to survive a little bit longer, but they have to push this point up these two slopes all the way to the second point. They're able to sort of do it to an extent as Virtus.pro are forced to back out, but they're leaving it so late on the clock.
And they don't have the ultimates. Monkmudder's going to have to build the supernova into super time. Virtus.pro, Fire's going back onto the Star-Lord so he can recontest in faster, as well as having the iframes on the Stellar Shift. You can get aggressively on top of the backline of Yoinkanda 2 with the Barrage! Terror Cape into Star-Lord follow through, and Fire is absolutely unstoppable. Yoinkanda, it cost them everything in the fight before, and Virtus.pro just sit on the Comic Revival, don't even need to use it to fully revive the entire team. They're just picking up key players to make sure that they don't have to wait around for Nevix on that Emma Frost to come back into the mix, and they can just get so aggressive with Fire, Dreedro, and Saipe all chunking down Yoinkanda squishies.
I just want to listen to the music for a bit. I like that it feels like, yeah, we're setting the stakes. This is really serious, and then it's just this in the background.
Oh yeah, the music design in Marvel Rivals is amazing. I think by far my favorite score is Hell's Heaven Overtime, because all of the different maps actually have their own overtime music scores too.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'll have to listen to those properly. I like the opening to Yggdrasil's Path. Just the guitar, the grunginess of it. It feels for Yoinkanda they need to really pull out a hell of a solo here to sort of bring things down for Virtus.pro. We did see them not finish the map against Fire Strays, but like we've been alluding to, Moxie, it was like in that final choke where you got under the ground with the robots coming out of the wall. That's where things can often get stuck. Virtus.pro don't need to worry about that. They just need to get it pretty much to the end of point B.
Oh, Fire. Oh, do they manage to get a pick? Mantis damage boost and Black Widow. Does Fire find anything right here? If they get a first pick before Yoinkanda have control of corner, this defense changes up entirely, but no one peeks, no one egos. Virtus.pro swap to what they actually want to run out with. Fire onto that Star-Lord. They saw how much value it had. It's going to buy so much space too. Yoinkanda are going to have to back all the way up when they see that Star-Lord getting a little bit too close. So speaking about too close, Edsu a little bit too close to Sparker's protection squad, and that Star-Lord tears the Psylocke apart.
Yeah, the thing I want people to watch, if you haven't watched Virtus.pro play on this map so far, is just how many times we see that triple arrow at the top of the payload whilst the fights from Virtus.pro are happening like they are now. Look how far ahead they are. That objective is still pretty much moving at full speed. Yoinkanda really can't do too much about it, and Sparker really shining on the Adam Warlock. We've put so much focus on the other strategists in the game currently that Adam just wanted to make sure that his name was named, brought up, and basically to Rio to don't be rash. Virtus.pro is still back.
Yeah, Pyro Prison expires from Monkmudder. Virtus.pro move in aggressively with a Soul Bond. Dreedro is going to be able to top it off with an Eternal Bond as well into a Terror Cape, and he catches so many players from Yoinkanda. He uses the Eternal Bond to get past the shields, which would have blocked the damage vulnerability. Edsu has no choice but to go for the Dance of the Butterflies, trying to shut down any aggressive plays that Virtus.pro were looking to find. Soul Resurgence though from Saipe, all of the bodies being stacked too close to the Psylocke. She's going to deny any pick, and meanwhile Finzi, the more players that are stacked for the Strange, the more players that will fall to the Maelstrom that comes afterwards.
It just feels inevitable. That whole like lever of we're so back, it's so over, it's now we're so back for Virtus.pro. It saves so many ultimates. It's a really good fight, a fantastic Kayavag motor that comes out of Finzi. You're seeing like Saipe, we sort of said that he was the one that was suffering the most with the focus of strategists in the draft. He's rolling back the years over on the Mantis, making it work. And Black's trying to just make something happen, not wanting to give up too much space, knowing that Virtus.pro, with 4 minutes on the clock, don't really have all that far to travel.
Freedom Charge comes into the mix. Virtus Pro going to have to make sure that they shut that follow-up down. Nevix with the Psionic Seduction silences anyone from Yoinkanda who thought that they could find a vulnerability in Virtus Pro's back line. Fire with the Galactic Legend also make sure that Snaze's own Psionic Seduction doesn't find any inroad to Virtus Pro's backline. And still, like you mentioned, bodies on the payload. Objective continues to move while Virtus Pro continue to move their players forward, taking away the space, eroding the positions that Yoinkanda could play to slow their approach down.
Pretty much exclusively on the Star-Lord today, just making the most of the team up with Mantis and Adam, of course. Really has been good at shutting down Etsu. It's this almost like Peel of just being aggressive, able to chase up people that don't want to be chased. And now this objective is pretty much right at the end of its tether with 3 minutes for Yoinkanda to hold. Losing Stays is a little bit rough. There's going to be a contest. There has to be. The Dance of the Butterfly not able to beat that, of course, but with everybody grouped up, the damage is just negligible, not noticeable. Soul Resurgence is just going to flip things back, and Monk Mother, the Supernova feels like it's just a light heat wave more than anything. You've got the Eternal Bond holding on for Yoinkanda, but they're still losing players. Etsu's down again. Black's CC'd out, surviving, trying to disengage over onto Fire, and Virtus Pro not playing with their food, but being very selective with where they're taking these fights exactly. It's only 8 meters to push things on, and Etsu at least taking out one of the backline supports of Sci-Fi. It's going to keep things alive, but it's still 2.5 minutes, Moxie.
Navix is going to fall. Sparker with the Karmic Revival more than happy to invest that ultimate and brings back both the Mantis and the Ammo. Karmic Revival still going to be sounding enough for the next 10 seconds, so I'm going to have no choice but to back away. Try and stabilize around this corner. Eternal Bond from Dridro, that's going to lead into another aggressive Terror Cape, potentially behind the entire team to catch. They try and Terror Cape back, but Fi gets phased by the Dark Teleportation coming on through, and Nevix with the Psionic Seduction sets everything up for Fi. Soul Bomb just to top it all off. There's nothing Yoinkanda can do. Virtus Pro sweep the series 2-0. The top dogs are back.
Yoinkanda, however, unfortunately not participating any further in stage 1, and if they want to make stage 2, they're going to have to run a little bit more of an in-game gauntlet to get there, whichever way that looks. But yeah, the death of Virtus Pro greatly exaggerated with how things have played out today. Adapted nicely, 2 games to Cloak and Dagger, the MVP. Is probably an omen, I suppose, of what exactly was Virtus Pro's problem and what exactly they fixed up.
I need to see the stats of the assists. Yeah, there it is, 36. So to put this into perspective, Dridro had more assists than a Mantis. I'm just gonna let that information just settle for a couple of seconds to sink in. A Cloak and Dagger had more assists than a Mantis whose job it is to give damage boosts to your duelists, and potentially Sparker as well on this Adam Warlock, who might as well, let's be honest, have been another duelist. But Tridro did such a good job. Like, aggressively utilizing Eternal Bond can be very tricky for teams to be able to pull off. However, the fact, like, Yoinkanda didn't really have anything that could punish. There was no Magneto on the other side, there was no Iron Man, so no one-shot potential, which means that Dridro, every single time Eternal Bond came out, the goop on the floor might be purple, but for Dridro, it was just a green light of go, go, go into aggressive Terror Cape to catch everyone from Yoinkanda, who was stacked up and not in front of a shield, which would have blocked the Terror Cape application.
It's also worth adding that Dridro had more assists than the opponent Cloak and Dagger and Mantis combined, which goes to show how much of a strong performance he's had. And I remember it was him that I think when this advanced draft system was added in, that he was like, it's too simple, it's too straightforward, because teams were just first banning Torch every single time. I think he's probably kicking himself because he's had everything happen since with the draft system really impacting the support players more than anything. But they've got ahead of it. That's how it feels. Now, with Virtus Pro, it's a dominant win. Yoinkanda are a solid team. You sort of expect Virtus Pro to be able to bounce back. but it does cast a little bit of a question mark on them across the rest of this tournament. Even going further on into this group, if we do see a rematch against Rad, which could easily happen, right? We still could see them in their like groups finals, what that would look like, and if the likes of Berber Patipim could maybe try and do some damage to Virtus Pro. It's made this whole tournament feel wide open, despite the fact that Virtus Pro have bounced back seamlessly after that defeat from last week.
Yeah, what it's also going to do is it's going to shake the meta. A lot of these other teams look to Virtus Pro to see what is being run, because Virtus Pro was the strongest team. They were the strongest team across all regions. They weren't even scrimming EMEA on the way to the Invitational because they thought, one, they didn't want to reveal the strategies, and two, they thought that it wasn't worth that time. They said so themselves in interviews many times. They would only scrim American teams. But now that Virtus Pro have shown how incredibly strong not just Cloak and Dagger is, but Cloak and Dagger combined with Mantis and Adam Warlock, because then you're taking Terracape's 28% damage vulnerability for 3 seconds, and you're combining that with Mantis 12% damage boost to come on through. You send that onto something like a Star-Lord who has the means of going aggressively in. He's got the mobility, even without that Magneto with the bubbles. He still has all of the safe engagement plays because he's got 2 iframes attached to his 2 stellar shifts, which also act as an automatic reload to his primary. And all of a sudden, you're creating an absolute monster. And you know what's even crazier, Ryan? We're not playing on the next patch, but next patch, Star-Lord's getting buffed.
His effective range has been increased because, of course, I mean, it makes it very exciting for Fi. But we're actually going to speak to the DPS Adam Warlock himself. And we're going to talk to Sparker. And Sparker, if you like, we'll start off the elephant in the room. We can't talk about today yet. Last week, that first series loss against Rad, what went wrong? But also, what was your reaction afterwards? It surely was like we were bound to lose at some point. It's better to lose now than say like the grand finals of Ignite, right? We can bounce back.
I mean, yeah, it definitely is. I mean, you gotta lose at some point, right? And if it is for seeding, then who cares, you know?
So, Cloak and Dagger, because we're starting to see that she's an insanely strong strategist in her own right, and she's also now either getting banned or saved. What do you think about the strategist makes her as strong as she is?
I mean, she has like the blind that does so everyone does like 25% more damage to the target. I think that's a big reason of why. And also her ult is really good because you can cover so much area. I think she just has like a good kit, and I mean, people get forced to ban all these other supports, so you usually just end up with Cloak or something like that.
Can you talk to us a little bit about like the Adam Warlock pickup? Because I think we sort of saw like how the draft looked against Rad, like them using and sort of almost exploiting the Cloak and Dagger stuff. I think a lot of people were assuming that you would just sort of take what they did and carbon copy it across and use it today, but it feels like you've sort of taken that and then almost improved upon it, right? By adding in this sort of triple support lineup. You've got the Resurrects as well over on the Kamet Revival, the Ultimates, the team-ups and stuff. Like, was that something that you were sitting on beforehand, or was that after that loss to Rad, you all sat down, you talked about what we could do, how we could like influence the draft, and then you realized that this was something to maybe work towards?
Well, we've practiced a lot of comms, so we know how to play everything, and we just play based off bans. So we thought this was the best, and we just picked it.
So obviously, continuing on now in this tournament, you have the potential of going up against some teams, but also maybe being able to find your way back up against Rad Esports. Do you have anything to say to them? Do you think would anything be different if you guys matched up again, say next week?
Well, we will be better prepared for them next time. And I do think we had a bad day, so we will do better next time.
Sure. I mean, there's plenty of teams that have gone down to a loser's bracket and then done the run to go and win the whole thing. So I think if there's a team that we sort of expect to be able to do that, it's probably you guys, Parker. So thank you very much for joining us. Again, congrats for making playoffs. You still got games tomorrow and stuff. So we'll let you go, prepare, relax, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you very much.